So patience has always been a challenge for me, and many of our
customers. Do you think that's because of ambition, or do you think that's because you wanted to seem successful in front of other people's eyes? If you really dug deep,
I think it's probably ambition. Like if I want things to happen faster, and it's hard for me to wait for them, you know. And we see a lot of that. A lot of our customers are young entrepreneurs, and they're really hungry to grow their business. And what is your advice to as far as patience and taking a long-term view?
I just don't know anything else. My advice is, if you love it, why would you want it to end? Like for me, business is my hobby.
Yeah.
So like when you go on a skiing trip, like don't you get sad when it's Sunday when you were looking forward to it and you got there Thursday and you skied all weekend? For me, that's business. This goes back to my point of people wanting things or wanting to seem successful instead of actually being about it. For me, patience is a piece of cake. It's the only thing I want to do. I wish everything slowed down. Now, to your point, I've had very fast successes in my career because I use self-awareness. I put myself in good positions. But in the macro, I'm patient, and it leads to a lot of mental health. When you're not anxious for success, you're happier. And that's where that content comes in.
And enjoying the process of what you do.
Love it. Like everybody wants to sell their business these days. I never want to sell my business.
Yeah, and you know, I'm with you there. I'm a big believer in passion, and having passion for what you do. I've never worked at a job or stayed at a job that I wasn't passionate about, and that kind of helps you weather the storms and stuff. I mean, look at this. I'm getting paid to interview you right now. How cool is that, you know?
And I also believe in EQ. You know, I reached out to my speaking bureau, Vayner Speakers, my company, my speaking team, after our speech the other day and said, hey, the Wi-Fi was not stable where I was. I couldn't get it there. Can you reach out to them? Maybe we can, and look what, you know, this is actually caring. That's what we're doing right now.
It was a perfect example. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about EQ today, because your Vayner Speakers team, you guys demonstrated exactly that. And it was awesome. And it does make a difference. So I know we're running short on time. I just had two quick questions in addition. So the past year and a half caused a lot of adversity, but some people in organizations fared better than others. So what has the pandemic taught us all about adaptability and resilience?
I think it was just, you know, I think it's something we've all known. People have talked about being prepared for, you know, it's the Mike Tyson thing. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. I just think this was the first time for a lot of people that they had to go through it. You know? And to be honest, financially, unless you were a business that was incredibly affected by the rules of COVID, hairdresser, you know, bars, there was no question. A lot of people didn't feel the financial part because we just printed money. There's a lot of people, this was the greatest vacation of their careers.
Oh yeah, I definitely saw that.
People are currently staying at home on vacation because they're getting paid more in unemployment than to get a job.
Yeah, they're having trouble hiring people because of that.
That's right. So that's fine. I mean, I'm not overly worried about socialism, capitalism. Like, I think people get very religious about things they don't fully understand. To me, it's just one big game of the world will continue to have twists and turns. Are you in the mental capacity to deal with it?
My friends, you want to talk about something that has completely become something nobody talks about? Nobody talks about saving money. Like, it's just not a conversation. Like, there's a very easy way to do this. If you make $49,000 a year, live as if you're making 27. Everybody lives over what they make. No wonder you can't save money. Your apartment's too nice. Of course you can't save money. Your car is too fancy. Of course you can't save. You're buying clothes you can't afford. There are motherfuckers that complain to me. And this is where listen, if you're DMing me or emailing me, know that I don't fucking fool around. When you DM me and say, I can't, the first thing I do is go to your account. Don't let me hear that you're broke as fuck And the first fucking story I click on, you're drinking a $7 fucking coffee. If you're broke, you're not allowed to take Uber. Take the bus, dick. We need to start saving money to get Are you in a shit spot? Are you in debt? You don't like it? There's gonna be no fast track to $1 million that's gonna fix that. It's gonna be taking a step back and drinking a whole lot of humility, not a fucking French latte. I don't get it. People are always like, Gary, your story about you building your dad's business, that's not true. Like, you fucking, like, that can't be true. You had money to invest in Twitter and all that shit. I know your story. I'm like, okay, right. Because when I made $53,000 a year, I had a $2,000 a month apartment. Then I moved down to a $1,400 one because I wanted to save more money. And I bought nothing for a decade. I went out 0 times. I bought no clothes. I wore liquor t-shirts to fucking work. I fucking spent no money. Not super complicated. How many people here are immigrants or the children of immigrants? Raise your hands. Raise them high. How many people are the children of? Keep your hands up. And how many are the actual immigrants? Awesome. Immigrants have this shit figured out. Immigrants come here, they work, and they fucking save money. I went on 1.5 fucking vacations my entire childhood. We went to Orlando. We stayed in the fucking Holiday Inn, and my mom ate like 1 sandwich in the week. Immigrant shit. Immigrant shit. Everybody cries about immigrants. They don't spend money on dumb shit, motherfucker. Try it. Try it. Save money and then do your thing. It's about patience. Where everybody gets caught up, now they're somebody's sitting here, Sally's sitting here, she's 39. She's like, okay, this makes fucking sense. And then she's like, but fuck. And she's like, it's gonna take too long. And I'm like, Sally, you're 39. Do you want to be miserable as shit for the next 60 years? Or do you want to have some grinding years for the next 7 and be 46 and young as shit and start the process of actually being happy? People's complete inability to take 1 step backwards, to take 2 steps forward, is destroying people. Do you know how many people here own their home? Do you know how many of those people should sell it? I'm being serious. Do you know how many people have no liquid cash? Their home is their drain, and what they should do is sell the home and either buy a smaller one or rent to give themselves liquid to be able to go on the offense. But their home, which, oh, by the way, has 4 too many rooms. No, like, do you know few people have a home that actually fits their actual reality? People have homes with 4 extra rooms or live in a town that makes it look better for them. Man, there's so many fucking fucked up moves out here, my friends. I haven't even started.
My definition of success for me is to be able to do what I want to do at all times, always, and be happy about it. Having freedom is everything.
Has that changed over the years?
No, but I don't think I didn't realize what was going on in my youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, no, I wasn't, it's hard for you to really know yourself completely at this point. You'll look back and realize it was all the same shit, but articulating it takes time within yourself and also just takes time of you actually executing on it. Back to like the sub-context of what we're talking about here, one of my biggest problems right now of like everybody who's trying to make positive impact is they're doing semantical work, not actual work, right? They're jockeying for their personal reputation by what they wear or what hashtag they use, not necessarily what they're actually doing. And if they actually ask themselves, once they actually embrace the fact that they're being selfish, then they can become selfless. When they're posturing to selflessness and disguising it, their true selfishness, they're losing, because that will play out. And that is the vulnerability of being over woke. That's the vulnerability. And the reason I like saying them out loud is because people aren't saying that part out loud, which then doesn't allow a lot of this good to actually be effective. And then it starts getting into delusion. There's so much I love about, making the world a better place, but it has to be practical. Like I would be thrilled if the government decides to wipe out all these college debts, but let me promise you what the reaction to that's gonna be. Even worse behavior. Watch what the 27-year-old does when you take $230 off her bill. Like, watch what she then does for the next 20 years. It's not gonna be as good as people think. The thing that I'm super passionate about, as a lot of you know, is I think work ethic is the one thing that's super controllable, right? Like, a lot of us were born with what we were born with, right? Like, you're only so pretty, you're only so smart, you're only so fast, you're only what you are. The one thing that I'm fascinated by as you sit here, the way you were parented, where you were born, what you got, the one thing that actually is in your control is the decisions of what you do with your hand. It's like a great poker player, right? A great poker player doesn't need the best hand every time to win. It's how she or he navigates with that hand. We're not gonna change who we are or where we were born or to whom we were born with. But no matter where you are in the life cycle right now, we all have the opportunity to start looking at it a little different. And to me, very frankly, I just think we spend an enormous amount of time on dumb shit when we have ambition to do so much more. Now look, you do you. I'm not interested in peddling being a workaholic. I'm really not. You can do whatever you want. The happiest friend I know from growing up, I think he makes $50,000 a year. He's on 17 fucking softball teams. He fucking takes every vacation day off, and he's happy as shit. And I love him, and it makes me so damn happy. I have friends who were early employees at Facebook. They have $100 million in the bank, and they're miserable, and it's shit. This is not a money conversation. This is very simply, do your actions back up your mouth? To me, looking at the hashtag, looking at people talking about this, looking at their social media, when I have the whole East Coast to West Coast long flight, I get into a lot of work. I get all my work done, and then I start looking at all of your social media on the way here. And I look at the hashtag, and I see what you said about the earlier speaker, and I do my thing, right? The thing that fascinated me a lot about this conference is you've got a lot of people peacocking in this organization. AKA, a lot of you were talking big shit. And I don't mean about this conference, I went back and looked at all your tweets. Did you know there were 37 billionaires sitting with us today? I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated because we're sitting in a world right now where entrepreneurship is on a pedestal of cool. So everybody's flocked to it. And everybody's talking about how they're gonna crush it and what they're gonna do and who they're gonna be. And then you look at their content, and every Friday night, they're at a fucking concert. And every Sunday morning, they're this, and every Tuesday afternoon, they're that, and they watch a shitload of fucking Netflix, and they're incredible at fucking Candy Crush, and fucking. And so, I go on this rant, not to do anything or to razz or to fucking call anybody out. I'm just asking a very simple question. I promise you, if you wanna be pumped professionally and personally, there's one thing that will drive you to the biggest success. It's called self-awareness. Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're about? Are you actually talking about shit that you care about? Are you talking because 3 or 4 people that you love talk that game and you just feel like you've got to fit in or appease your mom or dad or uncle or aunt or grandmother's ambition? The thing that helped me so much was just self-awareness. In 4th grade, I punted school because I knew I sucked at it. I knew that I could make $3,000 a weekend as a 10-year-old selling baseball cards, but I couldn't spell 90% of the words that were being thrown at me. It was just who I was, it was how I was wired. And I implore everybody in this conference to really think about this incredibly interesting thing, which is when you're self-aware and you can get to that place of understanding yourself, I implore you to triple down on your strengths and punt your weaknesses. This country is really good at selling down our throats what we're not good at. We're always being sold what to fix. I truly believe that most of the people in this room will succeed by not addressing those things. Now, something could be fatal, right? Like something could really hurt you. But I think you need to just lift those, get them to a certain place so they're not a vulnerability, and triple down on your charisma, and triple down on your salesmanship, and triple down on your work ethic. Whatever those 3 to 4, 1,
2, 3, 4, 5 pillars are, it's fascinating when you study who's winning and who's not. It's the people that have the confidence to suck at shit that are winning. I can't read, right? Like, I'm terrible at it. Like, reading a second grade book to my daughter's like, you sure you want to read me? You should go look a bird. Yet, standing in front of 800,000 people, I'm like, cool, I'm good. Like, we need to start thinking more and more, and as you're going through your careers right now, I implore you to be confident in what you're good at and to punt what you suck at, because I promise you, everybody else sucks at shit too. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses, and I'm fascinated by people's obsession to pour all their efforts into fixing their weaknesses, which is playing defense, and not tripling down on strengths. To figure out, do they really want stuff? Do they love how many people love working because they just love the game of trying to win at a career or building a business? Raise your hands. Those people are gonna have a disproportionate advantage because it doesn't feel like work. It's just their zone. For the rest of you, you need to figure out what you like about it and spend all your time on that, because if you're in a place where you don't like it, you're not gonna put in the amount of work that's needed to actually achieve the things that most of you want. It's very, very simple. Put yourself in a position to succeed. Put yourself in a position to succeed. And I will finally, how many people here feel like they are not self-aware? Because I want to address this if I can. Just raise your hands if you struggle, you think a little bit with self-awareness. Raise your hands. Nobody wants it. I'll just go to it because I respect why that's a tough one, why we got half the hands that we should have, and more importantly, the ones I got were fucking, crocodile hands. If you're listening for the last 7 minutes, and I'm going towards unfun, I'm going to an awkward territory, I'm going there because it has been clearly in the last 4 years the thing that I've seen that has won and lost. I would highly implore you take the 5 people that spend the most time with you, coworkers or family members, if you feel like you're struggling with this issue, and invite them to dinner, create a weird event where it's like your mom and a coworker, and everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? Create a weird event, and tell everybody like you really want to figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at, and spend 3 hours getting the people that love you or know you the best comfortable with telling you the truth. Because nobody wants to tell you. Because most people are kind, right? We don't tell people because we like each other, like especially the people that are closest to you. But this is something I threw out about a year ago in a blog post, maybe 2 years ago, and it's been the thing that I've been most emailed about. It's remarkable, and it's an unlock, because when you don't see it, when you're blinded to it, you're doing the same repeat behavior that's stopping you from the thing, and once you can break it, if you have the humility to be comfortable with yourself to go there, it's a humongous unlock. But if you're fucking insecure, it's not gonna mean dick. If you don't know what the fuck you're doing with yourself, it's not gonna mean shit. The reason I spend my time on talking about this is not because I wanna be a fucking motivational speaker and fluffy fluff and rah rah rah. It's because it's the fucking thing. It's the thing. If your operating system isn't right, you got no fucking chance. If you're not fucking do you know how fucking unbeatable I feel? Do you know that if you think I'm the best and I'm fucking the best and you're wearing my fucking hoodie and I'm the fucking best, do you know how good that feels? Phenomenal. Do you know if you're sitting here right now, never heard of me, and you're like, fuck this guy, I don't like his bravado. I don't give a fuck either. I don't care if you think I'm the best. I don't care if you think I'm the worst. I'm just in my shit because I'm grounded, because I know what I am and I know how I'm trying to live my life. And I want that for every fucking person, because let me tell you something, it fucking is the best. It's such a good place to be. Do you know what it's like to be in your own head and nothing else matters? Do you know what it feels like to give a shit so much about what everybody thinks, yet not care at all? Do you know that when I leave here, I'm gonna look at every single tweet about this talk, and if somebody said, I'm gonna be devastated like I fucking died, yet equally don't give a fuck? When you can get to that place, amazing shit happens. You know why? Because you stop being scared. When you're not scared, you do shit. When you're scared, you do nothing. And when you're not scared, you do shit. And even better, when you're coming from a good place and you're intense good because you're good and you have good to give, shit really starts happening. And so I implore you, let's go. Get the mics ready, I'm ready. Let's go into the Q&A. But I implore you, I'll go into every detail, but I implore you to get inside your head real quick. Figure out who you really are and figure out if what you're talking is being mapped by what you're doing. Because the second you put those things together, shit fucking unlocks. There's best practices. Everybody's different. Even if you follow the right, I put out all my content for free. I want people to follow the model, but they're all gonna everyone's gonna do it their own way. But even when I hear anybody, a startup, somebody starting at zero or potentially starting at zero, anybody here, the second I hear working smart, I get scared. I try to get them off that because working hard is the cost of entry of winning. You know nobody on earth that's made it that didn't work hard. You might know somebody who inherited money that didn't work hard, but you know nobody who's actually made it that didn't work hard. So I would just put the head down and try them all. Try them all. Here's my big thing. What is your time worth when you're not happy? Like, I hear people all the time like, oh, but I don't want to waste time. I'm like, you're fucking unhappy. Here's what people do. They're unhappy, you're not where you're at, so you put your time into dumb shit like 2K and Netflix and fucking Fortnite because you're escaping your real life. Your time's not worth anything when you're unhappy. So put it into making yourself happy, which is the fucking work to get you to where you want. I'm fascinated by the game of opportunity, right? Like, I think when you get into these conversations, like who's got opportunity, who's born, who wins the lottery of being born into a trust fund, who doesn't, who grows up in a bad neighborhood, who grows up, like, there's people that live in the Amazon. Like there's a lot going on with the 7.7 billion people on Earth. To me, the game of opportunity is what's super fascinating, and I think the internet just fucked everything up in the best way possible. Like, there's just so much more opportunity than there ever was for the people that don't have the opportunity, and to me that's like, fuck. That's something you need to really wrap your head around. And I say that to people that have everything handed to them and people that have nothing handed to them. It's kind of agnostic. Now, where it gets real interesting for me with you guys, and I'm making presumptions based on the 5 minutes we got to talk, but what's really interesting to me is that I grew up an immigrant. I didn't have much, I grew up in a different time than you guys are growing up, where school was the only way out. Like, the only way you could be successful, like when I was your age, the only thing I'd ever heard is the only way you could be successful is if you go to Harvard and get a good job and this and that. There was no talk of entrepreneurship. There was no talk of hustle, flipping shit, making shit, nothing, zero conversation. And there was definitely no internet. So for me, what's really, really crazy is I think the people that have the advantage now have the chip on their shoulder, have the flip mentality, have the quick score, the salesmanship, the stuff that I associate more with not the Upper East Side. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think people really understand that the DNA of the hustle and the grind and the flip is actually about to win way more now than the kids that think they're gonna go buy the books and go through the system. And that should be the greatest fucking thing you've ever heard in your life if you actually believe me. So that's like my energy. That's why I wanted to have this. Like, if I can get one of you fucking kids to actually believe me, then this is ROI positive for me. Then I'll get some good email from you in like 15 years and be like, yo, that was a good trip. I'm really glad you said that. It changed my mindset. That's really what I'm trying to get out of here. And I think you guys know something about me. You don't know me, I don't know you, right? I wish you knew how much I believe that. How much I could give a fuck to inspire some kids. I'm being really serious with you. I'm not checking a box to feel good about myself or do the right thing. I just believe it. And I think it'll be ROI positive for me because I actually think one of you is gonna hear me, go do shit, and then wanna do shit with me in 10 years and do business together. So I just really, really wanna make sure I set the stage for this conversation. I'm not checking any boxes here other than being selfish because I actually believe in what I'm saying, believe you guys actually have the advantage that you don't realize, and just think that's gonna manifest and it's gonna work out for me in 15 or 20 years. That's my truth. So, and I think that's powerful, right? Like when I think about that, I'm like, that's way cooler than like, I wanna be a nice guy and help some school. Like, nobody wants pandering.
right? You don't want pandering. Like the number one thing in life that I fought my whole life was handouts, or like I went into my dad's family liquor store business when I knew I could have done bigger things, just to make sure I never had it over my head that he did good by me. I needed to check that box and be even with him. So I'm visceral to like anybody doing anything for me. The only thing I want to do for you here is to wake you the fuck up of how much advantage you have against the market, because you got one of these, then you're in the game. If you don't, that's different. If you don't have a smartphone, then I get quiet. But if you do, you're in the game in a real way. You guys know this. There's fucking kids fucking flipping sneakers on Instagram, making more money than half the fucking people that work for me in this company. But are you willing to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and be online for 2 hours? You know what to do. We know. It's just people aren't willing to work. That's it. It's a binary game. But it's real. It's so real, it's crazy. You know, I was on Breakfast Club, and Envy called me out. You see that? Yeah. You guys saw it? Did you see the part where Envy's like, okay, cool, stop motivating, give me something real? And I was like, go to the dollar store and buy shit and sell it on eBay. Like that whole thing, it turned into this whole thing. I started this video called the 2017 Flip Challenge. I'm getting the craziest fucking emails. Like just people that are like, I'm on welfare. I make $5 an hour. Like, and now I'm going to Marshall's and making $1,000 a week. Just real. I just think people aren't willing to work. I think it's much more fun to be mad at the system. My employees love to be mad at me. They love blaming me. They love blaming me. They're like, it's fucked up because I'm like, no, here's what's actually happening. And I'm like, you know, we fired 60 people because I felt the company was getting fat and slow. And so I fired 60 people. One guy that night came up to me and he's like, you said we fired people because, you know, we're fat and slow and not working hard enough. Like, fuck you. Like, I have good relationships with you can see my vibe, right? They feel comfortable saying shit like that to me. Literally, he was like, fuck you. Like, me and my team, we're working fucking 13 hours a day. I said, I know. I said, the reason you're working 13 hours a day is because you guys aren't getting rid of the 8 people on your team that suck shit because you're friends with them. So, you know, like, that's just the truth, right? So, like, to me, here's the truth in your situation. You can make a lot of money and live whatever the fucking life you want as long as you got this, because this is so ridiculously powerful and nobody gives a fuck who you are on this. You don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to have grades. You can do nothing. I think that's powerful. And like, whether that means you want to storytell, be in fashion, flip stuff, like there's just no excuse anymore. And I think it's liberating once you actually believe in it. When you realize that nobody gets to decide your shit gets real fun. You know? Because I'm empathetic, man, like, I get it. Like, I don't really get it, because you gotta live it to really get it, but I'm pretty close for the way I look, and I get it. And it's just real, it's powerful. So I just think there's shit to be done. And what's really interesting is all my friends, you know, I was a real bad student. I went to a college called Mount Ida College, where 94%, 96% of the kids were African American or Latino. That's where I probably got my permission to have a little swag, right? And so that's what I spent my 4 years on, right? And so like, I met kids, I have friends, my suite mate is in jail in Newark for the rest of his life for double murder. Like I slept with my wallet. Like, it was pretty fucked up where I went to college. And when I think about what my friends, the kids that were in my wedding, the opportunities they had because they looked your part compared to what you have, it's fucking crazy. It's crazy. That's it. Some dude emailed me at $11 when he heard the Envy thing. 11. He's making $1,000 a month now. Marshall's and TJ Maxx. He just listened to me, downloaded the Amazon app. Instead of playing Madden for 4 hours a day, he goes to TJ Maxx and Marshall's and he scans every fucking product. And with the first $11, he bought some sort of shirt that was $4 cost, and he sold it for $17 on eBay, and he built the whole thing. It's crazy, just real. during that point, what did I do? Is I did what I preached to all of you, which is I put in the work. I gave up all my weekends and holidays in high school because I knew I had to pay that price, because I wasn't gonna do I'm gonna go to school, meet some good kids at Stanford and Brown, Ivy League school, make some relationships, and that's gonna be my springboard. I was gonna start with no relationships and in the gutter, and I was gonna have to prove it, and I would have to show up and meet everybody like I did in my 30s. But in my teens and 20s, I was gonna have to work. And so what I did was, to the extreme of anybody I've met that had options. Some people lose their father, mother, welfare, but anybody who had some options, I punted every leisure activity in my life. Nothing, no weekends, no vacations, zero, nothing. Like, we're making jokes about the 7 days. I didn't take a single, and by the way, but it's my truth. I didn't take a single vacation day. Never. And I'm sure you worked on your side hustle. I just love you and I don't want to razz you. Like, none. Zero. All my high school friends, gone, because I wasn't around. All my college friends, post-college, gone. I'd see them a little bit. I love those guys, but gone. Girlfriends, nothing. All in. So what did I do? I worked to such an extreme level that when I push you on work, I don't even ask you to do 50% of what I did, and I guarantee you'll fucking win. Number one thing about starting a business or trying to build a profile is that you're gonna lose a lot. A lot of people are gonna leave comments that you stink, that you should stop, and you're not good. You're gonna try to sell something and nobody's gonna buy it. I think back to one story I never tell that I just got inspired to tell in this room, just remembered, was I actually sold stuff door to door a lot more as a kid than I remembered. I just thought about it the other day. I used to just find things in my house that might have not even been mine. And I used to just walk around Edison, New Jersey, ringing people's doorbells and asking them if they wanted to buy it. I was, you wanna buy this weird t-shirt or this pencil? And when you're selling ridiculous stuff that nobody wants, outside of the one person every 50 homes that just thought you were a cute kid and gave you $1, you just got a lot of no's. And one of the reasons I think so many people are struggling and are unhappy in their early 20s is we're coming into a place where people are hitting their 20s that were parented of a generation that tried to overprotect. And I think losing is awesome, because you deserved it. It means somebody was better than you. And that's good for you to know, because that's real life. That's how it's gonna be. And I think getting somebody to say no is awesome, because that's real life. It doesn't mean you suck. It means what you tried to do right now didn't work. And I think that we have to have a much bigger conversation around that, and I'm happy a lot of you are listening to it right now, because it's very real. Because I will tell you, kids, and parents for that matter, that I sit up here tonight extremely happy because I was losing so much and got so many no's as a kid. Because now that I'm a grown-up, it doesn't scare me. And unfortunately for a lot of grown-ups, it continues to scare them. They cared about what kids in high school thought about their dress. They cared about opinions, and they were overprotected, and it made them incapable. I really believe in the zoo animal thing. We go to Central Park, Bronx Zoo right now, and release those animals into their natural habitat, they're dead in 10 seconds. And I think we have to be very thoughtful. For the parents in this room, especially who brought their kids tonight, you have to let them lose. No fake environments are destroying their actual confidence. It's true. It's the great disservice of parenting to eliminate merit and the truth from your kids. So I really like entrepreneurship for that. You know, my mom didn't micromanage, she let me live, which means the system said no to me a lot. I did a lot of card shows that I didn't do well on. I had a lot of bad things happen. You know, when I was 13, 40-year-old dudes were ripping me off, you know, because they just imposed their old man will on me and scared me. Like, all sorts of stuff happened, all of which allow me the great luxury to be in front of you tonight. So, really, ultimately, here's what I would say, and then I'll go into Q&A, because I think it'll bring the most value. I desperately need you guys to leave here understanding how ridiculously lucky we are to be alive during this era. This internet thing is no joke. No joke. And I just, and by the way, for everybody who gets 1 trillion followers and makes it, I mean, Justin Bieber, YouTube, like, it's now been a while since this has been happening and working. I think for a lot of this room, you may not go on to be Bieber or build a YouTube channel that makes $80 million selling toys, but the real conversation that isn't being talked about is I do believe almost everybody in this room is uncomfortably capable of producing a $100,000 a year business if they put in a lot of time and a lot of effort and have skill, whether that is through making a channel and having brands subsidize that, or selling stuff, or starting a product. And I hope that everybody who watches this that's not in here, or even the people in here, realize that that's a big statement. That's a lot of money. It just is. And I say it so simply, but it's not simple at all. But the fact that you can, in a way that you never could before, is remarkable. And I think all the people you look up to, or you admire, or you watched build real businesses or real influence on these platforms, they're the preview, not the anomaly. And not everybody's gonna have my natural talent or work ethic or the chips fall the way they did. But I want people to love their game the way I love it, not get the accolades or success that I have, because the happiness is way more fun than the byproduct.
Does being an entrepreneurial genius, is that only for people under the age of 35? What if you are 40, 50, 60, or 70? This whole entrepreneurship game isn't in it for you because we keep using the word, you're young. Well, what if you're not young?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things on that front. It's funny you said that. It's something I've been spending some time thinking a lot about. Number one, you know, if you're at 35, 40, 45, and you've worked as a non-entrepreneur, you're not an entrepreneur. First of all, I think anybody.
And you couldn't be.
You sure can be. You're more than welcome to be, but you're not a purebred entrepreneur. Listen, this is something a lot of you guys know that I get razzed on online because I say that if you ever work for anybody else, you're not an entrepreneur. Because my definition of an entrepreneur is you can't breathe at the thought of working for somebody else. That's my personal point of view on being a true bred entrepreneur. If you are a true entrepreneur, the notion of working for somebody else is so devastating that you would rather live on a couch with your 4 buddies with fucking cockroaches and eat shit food every day to try to build something. I truly believe that.
What about the argument that we're all entrepreneurs? And I could say, Stephanie Rule, Bloomberg Media, I work for myself. And if
you'd be lying to yourself.
And if you respect, but why?
Because somebody pays your paycheck.
Yes.
That's just Google fucking entrepreneurship. That's not what it says.
But why can't one take an entrepreneurship approach to their own
They can. So again, a lot of people that follow me know that the way I decipher from an entrepreneur is I use the term entrepreneurial tendencies. I think you have them. You've been very smart, in my opinion, from afar. It's why I like you. It's why I want you to be here tonight. First of all, I knew it wouldn't be, I mean, some of them are probably confused in the beginning. I knew it wasn't gonna be a cush interview, right? I knew they were gonna be real.
Cush interview.
No, but it wasn't gonna be the normal, like, Gary, hey.
Wait, it wasn't gonna be, when did your genius first manifest?
Right. That's right.
Because I was wondering.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting for me. But more importantly, I do think we can have entrepreneurial tendencies. I think that's great. And I do think that people need to be practical. I do think if you're sitting in this crowd right now and you have debt, if you from college, right? Or if you have, I mean, look, do you know how many people are dealing with real life stuff, including stuff like that nobody ever talks about, including like, I sit up here and be like, be an entrepreneur, and meanwhile you're sitting in that audience and saying, my spouse died. My fucking spouse died. Like, my spouse died, I've got 2 young kids. Like, it's not so easy to be entrepreneur land. There's real stuff that happens in people's real lives. Here's what I'm saying. We are living through the luckiest period of time ever for all of us because there's something called the internet. When your spouse died in 1972, right? You had no practicality after 7 or 8 or 9 p.m. when you got home to change your life. You just kind of like came home. The world shut down, right? You got rest is probably what you did. Or maybe if you were really hustling, you got an overnight grave shift job, right? But now we have the internet. The practicality of turning your life into an entrepreneur is very real. From 9 p.m. on till 2 in the morning every day, everybody here is more than welcome for 5 full hours a day, which, oh, by the way, is about the amount of time that most people actually work in their 9-hour day. Because these fucking bullshit hour lunches and the 20 minutes that you watch some random video on YouTube that your buddy sent you and you're texting all day, I mean.
And you're watching Ask Garyvee.
That's, you're damn right. You're damn right. I mean, people are really in these jobs deploying only 5 or 6 hours, right? And so there's so much time to do your thing. The problem is people say things and then do different things. We say things all, we say that
we
if,
say on
we
Facebook
say that if,
what we like, and on Amazon they know what we buy.
Correct, that's a nice point. Good one to sneak in there, Steph. I think more importantly.
You don't pay me to be here. You're gonna need to be nicer.
I'm being very nice. We say things like, if Trump wins, I'm moving to Canada, and then we don't, right?
Yeah.
We say things like, we say all these things that go against we say we give a shit about privacy, and you're giving away your data all the time, 24/7, 365. So I play in a white space of what people say. We say that I'll never be on Snapchat, it's so stupid. We say things, and then I've spent a career trying to figure out what we say versus what I think is eventually gonna happen, and then I bet my energy, time, and money on that. There's a thing I did on Bloomberg before you were on Bloomberg, like years ago. It was Techstars. Were you at Bloomberg when they did that? Techstars? Okay. Techstars did a show where they had it was around Techstars on Bloomberg where they were following 8 startups. It was like the last episode was like a real world event, right? There was people sitting there and talking about like, you know, what happened on the show. You know how Real World used to do the wrap-up show? Yeah. That's what they were doing. 7 shows, so I'm there with 5 other VCs. 7 companies go and they go, hi, I'm Rick, and we created donkeydonkey.com, and we raised $4 million, and everybody clapped, right? And he would sit down. Hi, I'm Stan, we created like luffy.org, and we've raised $7 million. And he would sit down and everybody clapped. Finally, this kid gets up and he goes, hey, we're from Red Rover, we didn't raise any money, we got a couple clients out of the exposure, and we didn't raise any money, and we're just kind of starting to get going. Silence. I lost my shit on TV.
Shocking.
You know, I was like, this is why this is all gonna be fucked, right? Because literally, everybody just stood up and said, hi, I'm Johnny from Boogie Boogie Boogie, and I gave away 30% of my company. And we clap up. These guys actually built a business, and nobody cared.
Hold on, back it up.
Please.
Right there for aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yes.
When we say, I raised $4 million, I raised $1 million, that means I gave away X percentage of my business. Do you believe that budding entrepreneurs realize what the implications of raising money actually means?
96% no.
That's a bummer.
I think most people don't get it. I think it was very attractive. You're young, you're gonna build the next Facebook, and let's go. Every second you bullshit yourself, you're losing. You're losing. You just are. And like, way too many of you care what other people think. It's insane how much I don't give a what my wife and my mom and my kids think of me.
And that's what stops a lot of people. Absolutely.
And by the way, it's not because I don't, it's because I know who I am. And I know what my intent is. And of course I'm gonna make mistakes. And of course I'm gonna go to a Jets game instead of Misha's recital, and that optically should look bad. Like, I get it, I'm not unaware, it's just I can't not be me.
And I think one of the things that when I was listening to, and I was going back to like when I was first building this thing, living in New York City, and it was that you do have to fall in love with a piece of this somewhere. You know, for me, I couldn't finish college. There were any job I put into, somebody else let me know how much I could earn. This was the first thing. If I went all in, I reaped the rewards. And so I do feel like you have to find something about this that you just love, that's insatiable.
And I would say, again, trying to push some of you out of this. And I'm being serious. It's not finding one thing. You hear that and you're saying, oh yeah, I do like this thing. It's, do you like it more than you don't like it? boy, do I hate a lot of stuff about entrepreneurship and being the number one. Most of all, that it's lonely as fuck running my company. I don't like being the moral decision maker of everything. I don't like the stress that, do you know how fun it is to work for somebody else? Do you know how fun it is to be able to say, it's Rick's fault. Everything's my fault at Wine Library and VaynerMedia. All of it. And there's no hiding from it. It's me. Oh, Susan sucks? I hired Susan. Or I hired Rick, who hired Susan, or I hired Karen, who hired Rick, who hired Susan. Like, everything wrong in your world is your fault. All of it. All of it. Not your wife, not your dad was a drunk, not your neighborhood. You fucking suck. And the second you go there, shit changes. The second you actually believe me, you're like, all right. And like, it's just a very interesting process. I don't know the stories of when I do this and one person actually does it, but I definitely know my friends and my buddies and my employees that have completely changed their whole lives on it. It's just not me, like, I don't know, it's just very simple. Like, when you spend every minute shifting to, I need to fix this shit that sucks, instead of, I'm gonna sit and drink this Budweiser and watch UFC tonight and complain about all the shit that's fucked up with my friend Rick, who's also a fucking loser. Shit changes. One of the big things that I don't even remember what I talked about, it's literally only second other time. You need to really fucking kick out your loser friends. It's a big deal. Like, the reason I haven't started talking about it yet is I like being educated. Like, if I'm gonna go like this and peacock, I like really do work before I feel like, I don't wanna get called out. Like, somebody asks a question and says this, I'm like, fuck, I haven't thought about that. And then, you know what I mean? Like, I like the way you guys know me, which is, you think I'm the most egotistical fucker ever because I stay in my lane of the shit. Come and talk to me about science or healthcare or macroeconomic, like, come and talk to me about 8 million other things. You're gonna be like, man, Gary got quiet. Because I don't talk about shit I don't know. The problem is you're just seeing the shit that I do know, and in that world, I'm the fucking guy. And so I think one things that really debate, and this might be the hardest ask, but could be the biggest win. I would audit those 5 people in your circle. I'm telling you, negative loser energy is a drag. Find new friends, people that are fired up and trying to win. I've seen this happen a couple times. That's a twist in itself. By the way, that might mean break up with your partner. Do you know what I lived my whole life on? Hanging out with 80 and 90-year-olds. Do you know what's the scariest shit of all time? The single scariest thing of all time? Regret. And then choosing the wrong things. I'm gonna be loyal to Susan. That's loyalty trumps your happiness. How the fuck did that work out? All right, what do you got?
No, you've talked about a lot of times as a leader, you have to be willing to like fall on your sword and eat shit sometimes. And each of these guys, not only with their business, a lot of them are leading teams. And a lot of times we get blamed by the people that we brought in, like, oh, I wasn't successful because of this. Where as a leader do you go, no, you call somebody out, and where as a leader, maybe just with your employees, do you maybe take a fall just as a leader versus like
no.
something, no? Okay.
There's no 8th fucking place trophies around here. No, Rick, you suck. But the only reason I'm effective at that is because I equally say, I fucked up. Or we have to change because I did this wrong thing. And what I often rely on and why it makes it easier is I always tell people I'm a net guy. Like, business is UFC. There's no undefeated. There's no undefeated. And too many of you want to be undefeated and perfect. I love losing. I proudly wear my L on my shoulder. Like, I think if you don't have losses, then you're way too safe and you suck. So the only way you have the ability to call out John is if you called yourself out first. So if you're only just calling everybody else out, well then you're that. And so I actually am very aggressive at calling myself out, and I'm more passive on calling out people. I have way more tolerance and patience to call you out. It's like the 19th time that Jeff fucks up that I drill him, but the first time I fuck up, shit, a half a fuck up, I'm like, yo, I think I'm about to fuck up.
And I think that also leads to, when I talk to a lot of guys and stuff, it goes along with a loss. It's fear of execution, that they want stuff to be perfect, and then they finally share that story on Facebook, or they get it on social and they're sharing their story, talking about their business, and it didn't go right. Like, how do you get over that fear of execution and be like, I'm gonna continue to try to put stuff out there until I figure out what works for me individually?
You gotta play the reverse game of what a lot of you play, and it's the game that most people don't recognize that I'm playing, which is, I don't talk shit up front. I talk shit post game. You know why you don't want to talk about your losses? Because you told everybody how much you were going to crush it when you started this. That's why. I was 33 years old before I ever made my first video about business and built a $60 million business already. That's why it's fun. You know, like, too many of you are like, oh, Susan, watch what I'm going to do. And then you don't do anything and you're like, fuck, I don't want Susan to think I'm a loser. That's why. So how do you do it? Stop promising shit up front, put your head down and execute, and then post-game your success. This way you're not talking at all until you're there. Too many of you front. You peacock up front. You tell everybody how you're gonna do it. That fake confidence smells like shit to winners. I smell that fake confidence on you every day. People sell fake lifestyle. Like, can we stop taking fucking money out of the bank, putting it on a bed, taking a picture of it, and acting like we're so fucking awesome? Can we stop like teaming up with 4 dudes to rent a private jet to take a fucking photo and make it seem like that's the life we're living? You're not fooling anybody.
That's good.
And who do you think you're attracting into your fucking stream with that horse shit? Let me save you some time. You're attracting somebody who fucking wants it way too fast, doesn't want to put in the work, thinks you're so special. Do you know why I'm not as popular as I should be? People don't want to do what I'm telling them to do. You know why there's a bunch of hucksters that kind of look like me? They're also charismatic, but you know, they have a different story and they have followers and people give a shit. It's because they're selling people what they want to hear. I'm never going to tell you what you want to hear. Let me tell you the straight up truth. It's the most true of all time. Nobody in the history of time has ever been successful without hard work. Nobody. It has never happened. It's never happened. Do you know how many LeBron Jameses there are? A lot more than you think. Like, Eddie Curry was a physical freak. Like, there's Ralph Sampson was a physical freak. Like, Ryan Leaf is a bigger physical freak than Peyton Manning. Nobody. And so what you do is you're like, well, look at LeBron. He was built like a fucking mountain, that's why. It's because he fucking didn't give a shit about science class in 6th grade and just focused on his game. And put in the work. That's why. Zero times in history did somebody else make you the money for you, underneath you. Your mama might have made the money for you and you inherited it, but you're not hiring anybody who's gonna make you all your money. The biggest mistake that people make when they come out of military, out of school, out of a job they don't like, out of a bad relationship, is they don't give themselves enough time to win in new shit.
And I feel like I always worry about the because I graduated from Kennesaw State, and I always worry about the financial side of things versus like actually chasing
the happiness. That comes down to spending money. If you can live more humble, you can hold your breath longer. This is what I tell everybody. People are giving up on their dreams by buying fucking Yeezys. Like, if you can afford it, buy a fucking Benzo. I don't give a fuck. But if you can't, and it's buying shit that made you have to go back, then you fucked up. If you can afford it, buy anything. Buy a Lambo, buy an island. I don't give a fuck. But if you're buying shit that then takes you out of being able to chase your dream, you're fucking up. So, like, really be thoughtful about your money. And do some side hustle shit. The flipping stuff I talk about, get a job that fucking sucks, but it lets you chase your dream longer. And then you've always got the last thing there. But be patient. It's impatience, I'm telling you. People aren't patient. The only way you're gonna be able to beat competitors that can throw money against search, which I'm sure is a huge driver for your industry, the only way you're gonna be able to compete with that is to become the authority of content. It's why I started Wine Library TV, right? I became the wine spectator, Jancis Robinson, Robert Parker, right? You need to do that, but you don't have to just do it as direct as I did with Wine Library TV. We're pitching a client right now that sells crackers to become the leading reviewer of cheese, right? Yeah. And so like you can play with things that are within the world of the thing that you actually sell.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. But you have to do it, right? Like it's like exercise, right? Like this book and what I just told you is right? But so is the way to get a six-pack in your stomach, right? There's a right way to get a six-pack for your stomach. There's exercises, right? And there's a diet. I know what they are. I'm not doing it. So I can tell you what to do. I can write for $30, you can find out what to do. But the problem is, back to that other question where I got kind of like in my zone, it's execution. You know what the answers are, maybe you don't. There's plenty of people that look like myself that can give you a lot of good ones, but you have to pick them and actually do them, period. Like this notion that it's going to be easy to be an all-time great in anything. I sacrificed my entire childhood to be a great entrepreneur. Just for the record, I have deep-rooted shit because I was not a normal child. I worked every day of my fucking life. Just so everybody's like, I'm happy, but like, I got shit. Everyone has shit.
Yeah.
Of course, how could you want to be one of the great, how is that, how do people not understand?
The difficulties are gonna be there.
Everyone's looking at your son right now, who's in America, who's a soccer player, and it's like, oh, lucky, awesome, good for him, all good stuff. Do they want to go to Germany at 15 and fucking have that culture shock? Or do they want to go to the prom?
Exactly.
Or do they want to hook up with Sally? Or do they want with a Visco girl? Or like, what do they want? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Enough. You want to be fucking LeBron? Bleed like LeBron. You want to be Beyonce? Bleed like Beyonce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was something. I mean, I'll never forget. Those first few months. And just not allowing him to make an excuse or to say.
Dwelling is fucking
suck it up.
cancer.
Get up in the morning. If this is what you want, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's not. For anyone who's listening who might be confused, who's saying, well, how's that any different than the person yelling at the back of the car after? It's not that. It's accountability versus ridicule. There's a reason those two words exist. They're different.
Well, and I think it's also, because I think also what you can do with that kid that doesn't want to get up and doesn't want to do these things, that's okay. Like, you don't have to be in the top 1% of soccer players in this country.
Of course.
And you don't have to get up right now, but you have to understand that it's like your actions have consequences. And so you need to decide what it is that you want and then act accordingly.
We live in a world that people's actions do not match the ambitions coming out of their mouth.
Sure. Yeah.
The end.
But you can change either. You can change your actions,
Correct.
or you can change your ambition.
Correct.
I think either is an option.
Let me give you an example.
Let me
give you an example. My son is like, I'm gonna dunk, and I'm like, look, already he's 7. I'm like, listen, man, mommy and daddy, we're not you guys. I'm not sure we're giving you the DNA for that. I'm like, look, do your thing. And I had this crazy combo, like somebody overheard it and was like, that's weird. They thought I was like crushing dreams. And the combo ended with me saying, look, I think you could be a really, really awesome intramural city league player, right? And like, he was like, he's 6 at the time, 5 at the time. He's like, what does that even, I don't know if he even knows the city league basketball. Like, I'm like, look, D3 shitty squad, 3-point shooter, maybe but here's what's interesting about that. A father or a mother that says that to a kid, you know how many people told me that I couldn't? I didn't give up or said, oh, my mom and dad or others said I couldn't.
that got me more fired up. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking stick it to everybody. That was my structure. To your point there, like this notion that you can be LeBron, baby. You know, like the thought of like that conversation, that's doing a lot of damage. And to your point, when you're 14-year-old who look, that 11 to 16-year-old range gets real interesting to me because these kids start changing, and all of a sudden the 13-year-old guy, just cliche stories, the 13-year-old guy who's gonna be the next fucking Mbappe, that's what he thinks, all of a sudden grew 6 inches, took his braces off, and the cutest girl at his camp thinks he's cute, and his chemicals changed. You know, his world just changed. And if he then changes, and all of a sudden he doesn't want to be Mbappe, well, guess what? That's life too. But take it from somebody who went through high school where all of a sudden I also grew and I was charismatic and I had things, and I thought it was more fun to go to sleep at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday instead of going out with cool chicks, because I wanted to wake up at 5 a.m. to do a flea market. This is real talk now.
Yeah.
Well, then there's no mistake of why I got here. This is not by accident. This is not luck. This is I put in the work, and it's because it was interesting to me. It was more interesting to me to go to Flemington's flea market than to go out with Pam Moses.
So I think work ethic, you know, I love it. I really do think that people grossly underestimate the balance between work ethic and talent, right? Talent gets you to a certain place, and then there's another variable to it. And so I'm a big fan of it, specifically within social. I'm starting to realize very recently, this is one of the first few times I'm ever saying this, we got caught. Web 1.0 and 2.0 were very automated and very quick results driven. If you've been on the web for the last decade or 15 years, we got caught because email marketing, SEO and SEM, banner retargeting, all this stuff worked quickly. If you want, the reason I built a business from 3 to 60 was because I email marketed when nobody else did it, and I had 88% open rates, right? Because it was new and nobody was doing it. So we had this web revolution where things, you did something and you got quick results. Then it matured into this thing called social media, and it's actually the opposite. Social media is human. Your best relationships didn't happen overnight. Maybe some of your most fond ones, but not your best ones, right? And so, where we're caught is jab, 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 right hook. Give, and then ask. We're coming from Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, which was ask. And because it was new and highly effective and quite targeted in comparison to print, radio, television, outdoor, it converted quite well. You landed 1 in every 4 of those right hooks. Pretty good ratio compared to the 1 in every 500 that traditional media did. Remember, I built a lot of my library on traditional media. I'm not a new age kid. I love print and radio and television and direct mail still today. My problem is, it's all overpriced. All traditional media right now is priced as if we live in 2002 instead of 2014. That's the only problem I have with it. I'd still run a commercial if they charged me the appropriate price in a world where everybody DVRs and PVRs, and or if a commercial's lucky to break through all the new technology, the second one comes up, you grab your phone and you're looking down and you're not paying attention. So, to me, I've never had the people that set auto DMs to their Twitter accounts, I want to stab in the throat. The people that think that you can automate human touch are wrong, and that's why they've struggled with it. They've tried. Most people are applying. I truly believe most people are applying SEO and SEM, banner targeted, and email marketing psychology to social, which is why they're not getting results.
What's your only one advice for a young entrepreneur?
What's my one advice for a young entrepreneur?
Only one.
My one advice. My biggest advice for an entrepreneur is if you're truly an entrepreneur, if you're not a wannabe entrepreneur, did you sell something before you were 12 years old? So that already worries me, right? That's a big question for me with entrepreneurs, but that's sales. So not every entrepreneur is just sales. So I don't necessarily, you're not totally eliminated, but you took a big dent, Max. But that being said, if you're a true entrepreneur, back to that gentleman's point about, I kind of felt his fire. Like, it's very, I could never work for somebody else. If you're a true entrepreneur, I firmly believe that everybody in this room and everybody watching on Ustream and 99% of our society spends way too much time trying to be better at the things they're not, right? Oh, I'm not a good, I know entrepreneurs that are trying to learn how to code in Python. Why? You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I need to be better at design, or I need to figure out how to be a better public speaker like you, Gary. Why? If my biggest advice to an entrepreneur would be to not apologize, to just be an entrepreneur. If you're a real entrepreneur, then you're more than happy to live in your mom's basement when you're 29 years old. If you're a real entrepreneur, you're more than happy to wear the same sneakers for the rest of your life because you're so obsessed with building your shit. It's so funny. I've gotten a lot of exposure, a lot of TV, and my friends now, Facebook, all your high school friends come out, and everybody's writing on my wall, Gary, you're so lucky you were on Conan O'Brien. Oh, Gary, you're on the Today Show. Oh, Gary, I read how big Wine Library became. You're so lucky. Do you know what I do? I go right back to their wall and say, Tom, I'm not lucky. Tom, let me paint you a picture. You remember senior year of high school and those 4 years in college when you guys used to invite me to go to the Jersey Shore and I said no? It's because I was working every fucking hour. I'm not lucky. You're fucking lucky. You went to the Jersey Shore, you banged some chicks, you drank some beer, life was good. You're lucky. So I would tell you that if you're a real entrepreneur, if you're sitting right now and you're a real entrepreneur, never apologize. Not to your parents, not to society. Execute on who you are. I probably do 99% of the world's deeds poorly. There's about 4 to 6 things I do well, and all I ever do is really focus on that. LeBron didn't try to figure out how to do something different. Tiger Woods wasn't like, well, I suck at this. They fucking focused on what they were good at. If you know what you're naturally good at, execute harder against that. That is no question in my mind, your biggest advantage in being successful because it's naturally already in you. Execute against that shit. For sure. Get as close to the sun of the thing that you want to be, and you will win if you're capable. And you hear that, now that I've gotten curious about it, you start watching these documentaries or you dig into the successful people, the amount of people that started off as grabbing coffee for the guy or the gal they wanted to be and then became it. I would do that, my man.
When I grew up, I want to be a clothing designer, kind of like Virgil and like Sean Witherspoon.
Yes.
And I was wondering, what would be your advice for me to achieve?
Go intern for Virgil or Sean. Your whole life right now should be about getting internships from people that you want to be like. Because the closer you get to the sun, the more likely you could become it. Your whole life for the next 8 years should be about interning for the people that you want to become. It's the #1 move. You understand? Yeah. Cool. Do that. And you're gonna start with Virgil and Sean, and they're not gonna reply to your DM. But you're gonna hit up Jerry DiLorenzo, Kun Lorenzo, next, Bape, next. But somebody's gonna say yes. And you start at the number 44 person you wanted. And the next summer you get to number 22 because you worked for number 44, right? Champion wasn't fresh 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So be smart. You understand?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
So I've been thinking a lot about, like, how I always say, get close to the sun. I don't know if you've ever heard me say that, but like, go work for the person you want to be like. Like for example, if you fell in love with landscaping, can you do like a month's worth of homework and find 7 or 8 guys and gals who built the best landscaping businesses from scratch, from being a kid that mowed a lawn, and could you cold DM them, LinkedIn them, and email them and say, I want to be your apprentice. I'll come and work for fucking nothing and grind for a year, but I'd like to learn. And they're in Alabama and you're here and you go down there for a year. Do you see where I'm going? There is a different college where you get paid to fucking learn wisdom that might take you 15 years to learn your own way, but you actually get paid to learn that wisdom over the course of 2 or 3 years. Molly, what do you want to do when you grow up? Do you know yet? It's okay if you don't, I'm just curious, do you? So to me, if you, when I hear that somebody wants to be the next Puff Daddy, or the next me, or the next whatever anybody wants to be, whatever, whatever you want to be, at whatever level, right? I genuinely believe that you should spend all your time to try to go get an internship to be as close to that person as. If anybody here actually wanted to be the next me, I think that they should have tried to be the intern on my team versus an intern at VaynerMedia. I believe that. I genuinely believe the closer you can get to the sun of what you want to be, the more likely you'll learn. By relentless fucking pursuit.
So if that, like, even if your email says don't talk to me for
Especially. I mean that. It's just the audacity to find the right balance. It's really actually interesting. It's not super different than David's question in some ways. How do you find the right cadence and balance to be aggressive without being fucking annoying? There's people that try to reach me every day, lots of them. Some of them immediately through their first 3 attempts go into, I will never fucking interact with this person ever because it's coming from a bad place. Like, I get to be the judge and the jury of that's what it tastes like. And other people win and eventually get their at-bats. There's a kid I met today for 5 minutes. Like, some of these people tried for 15 times to get, like, to me it's like if you want it so bad. First of all, there may be 34 people that look like you want to be, right? So, you know, there may be 11 hip hop business mogul people and you can go right down the line and try to hit up, you know, Birdman and P. Diddy, you know, 50 times each, right? So, I think it's worth it, Ma, honestly. Like, I think it's worth it. You have to understand, the upside's greater than the downside. Like, to me, how do you make yourself stand out?
But like, how do you stand out to the point?
You need to understand that person. Work for somebody for free. I'm telling you right now, listen to me, getting closest to the sun is where all the leverage is. People don't understand. Look, these 2 fucking guys are so much further ahead of his whole career's already made. How long have you worked for me?
2 years.
If he wants to work for Steven Spielberg, it's set. Like, people don't get it. Get as close to people are gonna pay me $200,000 a year to work for me in 5 years. That's what's gonna happen when people understand. Right now, the biggest steal of all time is to fucking get Mark Cuban's coffee, to get P. Diddy's shoes cleaned. Once you get into the vortex, if you're smart, I can tell you're smart. If you suck, then people get in and then they get out. But if you're good and you can get closest to the sun, it's over.
His first question is, what position did you play in high school football? Because you had to play high school football.
I played cornerback until everybody realized I was dramatically too small and too slow to be successful. Somewhere around 14, I realized I was much more likely to buy a football team than to play for one.
Got it, okay. No, it's good. I just had an imagination that you might be like a linebacker or something.
Just too small, man.
Got it.
DNA.
All right.
You gotta execute against it.
All right, good. Now, so my real question is, so you've been working with brands now with your media company. Are you kind of sorry that you've done that? Are you
No.
feeling? What's the state of the
So
sort
client work sucks, right? I mean, client work is like having somebody take a knife and stick it in your face, right? It's not interesting. It's a good overheard. I gotta remember that one. You know, but I knew what. I think way too many people do things without knowing why. You know, I think too many people. Oh, virtual currency's cool. Let me start a virtual currency business. Or, oh, mobile's big. I need to make an app. Or, wow, they follow trends. Oh, deal of the day. If Groupon passes on 6 billion, I'll make a niche one and I'll make $1 million. I think you have to have purpose for why you're doing what you're doing. So for me, I knew why I wanted to start consulting. I felt that I had a tremendous sensibility for tech, startup, entrepreneurship, and I didn't really understand corporate. See, I'm not very good at reading and learning. I'm only good at doing it. I need to taste it. It's like wine. You could read about wine, but until you taste 60 different wines a day, you don't really know it, right? So I needed to taste it. I knew what was wrong with corporate. I wanted to understand how they justified it. You know, I wanted to understand the politics. I wanted to understand where they spent their money because I wanted to learn it because corporate America has a lot of money, right? Corporate will always spend. They have to. So for me, I wanted to understand it and I wanted to reverse engineer a product, something more scalable, eventually to them. And that's what I'm doing. You know, I've spent 2 years. I think the brands that work with us are very lucky because I'm really giving them my heart and soul. And I think it's more valuable than what they're paying me. But I feel good about it because I'm getting what I want, which is I understand 2 years later, corporate, so much more than I ever could have in any other way, and I know what to do with it. And knowledge is power, and for me, the only way I can really grasp knowledge is living it. It wasn't fun. I had a lot of very smart friends email me and say, what are you doing? This is stupid. Like, that seems like such a massive step backwards, but I very much understood why I was gonna do it, and I'm very happy I did. Not to mention I figured out how to scale it, and and VaynerMedia is a multi-million-dollar business already, and much more profitable than Wine Library could ever be. So, it's kind of interesting.
How would you describe the life of an entrepreneur?
Not half pregnant. That's how I think about it. I think it's a game of edges. The highs are enormously high and the lows are enormously low. So it's not safe. It's uncomfortable. It's always on. If you're truly an entrepreneur, if it's really yours, I've never articulated it this way, but what just came to mind is, if you know somebody who's a parent, if you go talk to an 88-year-old parent, what I think she or he will say to you is, you're always a parent. That 88-year-old will look at you and tell you that they're worried about their 67-year-old child. And I think that anybody who's watching right now, who's not an entrepreneur, but has children, especially if those children are over the age of 20, can really understand what it is to be an entrepreneur, which is, you're always the last line of defense. It's always on you, and it's forever until you're dead.
Is it lonely?
Unbelievably lonely, which is great for me because I, believe it or not, am unbelievably comfortable with 5,000 people in an audience and 50 people around me as I am sitting by myself. As a matter of fact, on this trip, I requested to have some flights by myself because I'm in some really thoughtful mode, and I want it. I like being lonely. I enjoy it. And in my own head, I'm the loneliest. And I think that is a strength of mine, not a weakness.
Is it worth it then?
Hell yes. For me, I don't know any different. I do not believe it's worth it for the majority of people who are watching, who are now aspiring to be entrepreneurs because they are the current cool thing.
Well, it's important to know that, isn't it? But it's not for everyone.
No, not only is it not for everyone, it's actually not for most. The math is very clear. 9 out of 10 people fail in their entrepreneurial venture. 9 out of 10 people never even try. We're talking about a very small group of people who have the ability to sustain their livelihood predicated on their own ability to drive their own business. It's really interesting how you set it up, and you set it up perfectly in my opinion. We are currently in the golden era of entrepreneurship. Everybody wants to be one. It's actually not for most people. Now, on the flip side, let me go contrary. The internet allows for the first time a lot of people to actually be one practically. It's that it's lonely. It's not that you can't do it. The people that are watching right now, I believe they can do it. I believe they can make $1 million, 100,000, forget $1 million, 100,000 a year selling, a bikini they made on Instagram. I don't think most people are inherently good at the pressure that comes along with it. Which is year 1, it's 100,000, year 2, it's 400,000. Year 3, it's 200,000 because Instagram changed its algorithm and new competitors have come in. And oh, by the way, they screwed up because going from 100,000 to 400,000, they got fancy and they bought a too expensive car and a second apartment. And now that it's 200,000, the whole thing breaks. But now they're known as successful and they can't deal with the scarlet letter of everybody's judgment that they have to take a step back and sell that apartment. That's the problem. Got it?
Got it.
Hey, why did you leave? So it's a family business. You grew it. It's $60 million. It's, going nicely. 10x the whole situation or 20x the whole situation. So why did you leave? And
on some real shit, three main reasons. Resentment. My brother's 11 years younger than me, and I love my pops. Let me break them down for you. Because you guys go deep here, I'm going to give it to you. Shit that I don't usually talk about.
Yeah.
You work 15 hours a day, including Saturdays, because you're in the retail business, from 22 to 32 years old. No fun, no trips, work 15 hours a day. Real shit now, not like fucking like propaganda where people acting like they're working. In the store, 8 a.m. Leave the store, 10 p.m. In the store, 7 a.m. Leave the store, 11 p.m. For fucking 10 years, and you take it from 3.8 million to 60, and you have no real money like that, and now you're married and you've got a little bit of that, right? You start being fucked up a little.
Yeah.
Got it? I'm just talking real with you. I was like, yo, I was a kid. Now listen, the reason I wasn't really fucked up and it was okay was I wanted that. I wanted to pay my parents back. I knew I was fucking great. I knew it. I knew what's going on with me right now. And on the record shit, I haven't even started. No, I'm being really honest with you guys. Like you're gonna look at this video and in 13 years you're gonna be like, damn, he really wasn't even like in the same universe. Like I mean it. I really feel like I'm just starting. I'm patient. I know life is long. I have wisdom. I hung out with old grandparents all the time as a kid and I never understood why. And now I understand. I'm an old soul. I was patient. I knew I could give up my 20s for my parents, feel good about that, feel like I really put them on because they put me on. Be like, settle that bet, you know what I mean? Now we good. Now we eat. Really, I was a little bit like that. I needed it for me, but I really love my parents on some real shit. They're the best. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to get mine regardless. Let me really do something here. But now, after a decade, I started getting into that little place of like, number two, my brother's 11 years younger than me. My parents were 20 when they had me, like that old Russia shit, like, so my brother was coming up and he didn't want to work with my dad. My dad's a tough, like my dad's a different kind of personality, old school, and he didn't want to be about that. And so I wanted to jam with him. I've been teaching him entrepreneurship since he was a kid, eBay, garage sales, all that shit that people know about me. So I really wanted to jam with him. So we kind of decided somewhere around his senior high school, freshman year of college, like we're going to do this. So that was in the back of my mind. And, I left when he graduated. He graduated in May of 2009 and I left, started VaynerMedia. But I was doing both. I was doing Wine Library and VaynerMedia from 2009 to 2011. And then number three, I love my dad. Let me explain. My dad was one of the guys. He was one of the 10, 15 guys in the liquor business in Jersey. He had one of the good stores doing $4 million in a liquor store in the 80s. That's real money. It's different day, different age. There was no major players. Liquor business is fragmented. You don't have Walmarts and shit like that. So he was a guy. He was one of the guys. He was one of the people that could throw around some clout. He was one of the bigger buyers and he loved it. I came along and took that shit to the fucking moon. So I became the guy. And so now all of a sudden, you see where I'm going, right? Now all the suppliers, all people, all of a sudden my dad lost his clout. Yeah. And my dad, and I wasn't about sharing it either because I took the wheel and was like, no, one person can drive. So like go in the passenger seat. I love you, Dad. You're still my dad. And you could always call that once in a blue moon dad card and make me do something I don't want to do. But 98% of the time I'm driving. And the first year that I did the business, he was renovating and decided to build a new house for him and my mom. He loves construction. So they built a new house. And that first year we went from 4 to 10 million. And he kind of looked, he's like, fuck. 23, right?
I love you, Gary.
And so he was like, I love you, but fuck, I'm not going to mess with this next year, 17. And he's like, okay, I got something. And so, but what that did was I was willing to do it for him, but I was going to take the shine. I was going to have the leverage. I was going to be the guy. And I loved my dad and we were starting to have conflict. It was pretty cool for the first 8 or 9 years, little things, but now we were starting to have consistent conflict. I had my resentment up. I'd become real famous in the liquor business, the guy, and nobody gave a shit about my dad. And I saw the pain in his eyes and it hurt me because I love my dad. And people forgot about his part. He came to America with no language. He came to America with no money. He came to America and took all the risk and what he did from zero to what he did. I know I'm going to the tippy top of all time and I'm still going to always admire what he did from zero to that spot, right? And I have my own zero story, but it's different and he's my dad. And so it just felt like the right time, if that makes sense. Parents need to make sure their kids are happy. If we all collectively actually gave a crap about the happiness of our children, it would fix itself. Unfortunately, we care more about the judgment of our contemporaries about what our children are accomplishing more than caring about our children. This is an issue of modern day parenting and insecurity and keeping up with the Joneses, not a school system problem.
Caring what other people think.
It is the devastation of our society.
Yeah, because so many people watching this will be like, no, you need a university degree. You need that to fall back on.
Fall back on what? Yeah. Every company's not requiring a degree to get hired anyway. the greatest companies in the world, Amazon, Google, are no longer requiring degree anyway. So what are you falling back on? Now, you know, that's like saying you need to keep a horse on hand in case the car doesn't work. It's ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
It is ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it's completely predicated on the framework that the parent grew up with, and more importantly, the judgment that their parents are putting on them, or how they want to keep up with everybody else. Because the people that they eat dinner with at the country club on Sunday night, their daughter's going to the big university, and it's just ludicrous. It is sad. I'm a byproduct of parents that were strong enough to not care about what other people thought, which is why I'm happy. And I would like to use what the gift my parents gave to me as something that I communicate to the world, hopefully inspiring one parent to give that gift to their child.
Yeah, what do you say to that entrepreneur, that young entrepreneur at school, hating school, wanting to leave school, but has to stay at school? What do you say to them?
Enjoy the vacation, because you're gonna work the rest of your life. 2, don't be a hypocrite. If you're such a tough guy or gal, stop taking mommy and daddy's money. If you're such an entrepreneur, go buy your own iPhone. Start practicing now. The quicker a child gets off a parent's payroll, the more likely they will be happy in life.
I like that.
Me too, because you know, it's funny, I gave this talk at USC and it was parents and kids, and it was a really funny talk because depending on my answers, one of the two of them would be thrilled. You know, parents, stop crapping on millennials, you're the ones who parents them. Everyone's like, hey, the kids. Kids, get off the payroll. If you're such a tough guy, don't let your parents pay for your sneakers, your iPhones, and your Uber. Parents would clap. And I was watching this audience, and the reality is, there's two sides to every story. And I talk a lot about putting pressure on modern day parenting, and kids flood in, they're like, yeah, Garyvee, you got my back. And I'm like, stop taking mommy's money. And they're like, wait a minute. You know, because if they want the new Jordans or the new Supremes, right? Or if they want a new car, all of a sudden entrepreneurship is not as cool.
You do it yourself.
They want entitlement. The reason I've been able to win is because when bad things happen, I'm in my most calm. This is something I want to talk about because you just brought up something, because I love your spirit, Ali, and I just listened to you carefully. And when you said, I have my moments, and with my intuitive chemicals, I go, right. She and many other nice people have those moments because it's the high intense moment, right? Like something bad happens. My dad did this quite a bit, and my dad's on the other side of this. He would get stressed and it would formulate in a tornado of everyone around him. Yeah. And I became very visceral to it. I think I naturally would have been this, but I think my dad's reverse style to me, where I saw the carnage of anxiety manifesting in bad behavior to communication to the people around them.
Yeah.
I think I became even a more extreme version of what I probably would have naturally been had I not been in my dad's business and watched it. Because I became visceral.
You were the yin and the yang, yeah.
I was the yang. I was like, fuck that. I hate this. Dad, you're not being nice.
Yeah.
It really bothered me.
Be diplomatic,
But I realized over time, years later, as I got older, I'm like, oh, my dad was scared. I'm not scared. Why am I not scared? Oh, weird. I actually don't care about money. Oh, weird. I actually don't care about nice things. I don't need shit. I don't need a car. I don't need a Rolex. I don't care what fucking anybody thinks about what house or apartment I have. Oh, I have the shitty apartment. Oh, I have the not as good car. Oh, I don't, like somebody else flies private, I fly commercially. I don't give a fuck you. What? My life has not, what are you? And so once I started understanding, I'm like, oh, right. I'm in business. People get most anxious when their money could be affected. Go out of business, make less money, lost money. I always reacted by being the bigger man. That was the time when I could be the biggest mentor to my people. They just did something bad. We lost money. They think I'm gonna kill them. I walk in and I love them. Oh my God, now we're family.
Yeah.
And that has been my foundation. That's why people stay with me for such a long time. That's why I have so much continuity in my company that don't usually have continuity. Liquor stores, agencies, these are turn and burns. And I have 7s, 9s, 12s because of how I treat them.
Yeah, gosh, it's so
and
interesting.
That's because when COVID, let's go really real. This is very difficult to say because COVID was so devastating. COVID comes and there's that like 4th day in when you're like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I like that you, right?
This is real.
I'm like, ooh.
This is not just the news.
Yeah, this is not only not the news, this is not gonna be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that? When I heard the first day, 2 weeks, I'm like, fuck. When I was 4 days in, I'm like, oh, this could be a while. And then about a month in, you're like, oh, this could be the rest of the year. And it's more than that. Now we're into April the next year. Anyway, nonetheless, I remember having this huge sense of calm as my CFO started telling me the carnage of all the phone calls from our clients saying they're gonna need an extra 100 days, 200 days, 150 days to pay, how overextended we are, where we are in this, where we are on that, leases, and then the kicker, we're getting nothing because we fall in the middle, and so we're getting no government support. When I tell you that sword through my chest landed in the following way, literally, I remember it like 4 seconds ago. I was in my parents' house. I've been talking a lot about being a wartime general and being the captain during rough seas. This is gonna be fun. This is it. And I fucking drilled it. I will, for many, I don't think the time of like how well you navigated a business during COVID, I don't think it's the right time to talk about that with how much pain there still is. But in 12 years, in 9 years, I'll absolutely talk about details because I'll feel, we'll be more removed. It'll just be the way wounds work. And there'll be a lot of lessons to share and I've been prepared for it my whole life. Because I'm a wartime general. I tell my managers and my leaders, and this is the number one thing I think about. People are like, oh, Gary, why are you so upset with me? This is only the first time I've acted like this to my team. I'm like, John, it's the first time there was any pressure. You've been here for 6 months. It's been fucking smooth sailing. The second there was a fire, it flamed instead of took out. You're the leader. Too many people are peacetime generals. Everyone's a hero. BJ Armstrong's really good at basketball when he has Michael Jordan with him. What about when it's hard?
Yeah.
I think about all the time. Because I've got a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, like celebrating the shit out of when they do something that's beautiful. Because of the stories you've told about when you'd hold the door open and your mom would go nuts. I really think about that.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for even knowing that story. Thank you for picking up on that. And it is my number one. Reinforce. Going 4 for 4 in a baseball game is fun to cheer. Being drop dead cute in your outfit when you're 11 years old is nice. But make sure that the majority of the cheering is around things that look like you were nice to that person that's in their knee. My son showed
it's such good advice.
It's good, right? Al? Like when my son shows a lot of empathetic, things, when he like goes and hugs a kid who had a bad, this happened, hug the kid who had a bad day at baseball. I mean, I basically am treating him like he won the Nobel Peace Prize. Let me get into something that is a real concern of mine. And back to where Garyvee does a good job. And where Gary Vaynerchuk is doing a much better job with VaynerX the last 3 years versus 6 years ago. If we do not celebrate accountability, our kids will be disasters.
Yes.
So praise the bully thing, but when they are in this excuse life, or when they're complaining about the machine, and the answer isn't, what are you gonna do about it? We have allowed an entire culture of people to be in the excuse and dwelling, and everything is some macro government, parents, society, business.
Blame
it's
game.
This
Something else.
It is everything else but themselves. Now, here's an important thing to hear. It might be true.
Well,
stick with me here. I want to finish this thought. There might be incredible validity to one's point. Because it's a both game. You could be right that you were born on the wrong side of tracks. You could be right that America's doing this. You could be right that Coca-Cola is doing that. A big thing that happens next is now what? So for example, I analyze shit.
So what, now what?
Right. So it's yes, and now what? So no, it's awesome. Yeah. So we're on the same track. Like to me, I'm like, you're right. Now what? Because the thing that scares me is we have gotten to a place because of the way humans communicate in society where, for example, parents blame social media for their kids being insecure, not the fact that they're not parenting their kid.
Right.
We've gotten to a place where somebody feels that if they send out a tweet, they've done something about something.
Yes.
Or that if they tear somebody else down and they noble shame them, but they don't realize the hypocrisy because they're doing something else that is like, we are in a delusional state of non-accountability.
Yes.
Please, world, please hear us right now. God, tap into this phone line right now, please. We are making a mistake around accountability. 8th place trophies have destroyed half.
Yes, I was just thinking trophies. You read my mind. I was like, where did it change that like every kid gets a fucking trophy if they didn't win? Like, I'm like, that is not, I'm like, I don't want to play in that league, you know?
Sports helped us so much.
Yes.
I cried from 8 to 16. I cried once a week because I lost in something. It is the foundation of my happiness.
I swear, you know, it's like I just said on an interview for the first time, and I don't think I ever said this publicly, but like I, in high school, tried out for cheerleading every year, and I wanted it so fucking bad. I just had this idea. I wanted to be a cheerleader. I loved the outfit. I loved the you know, the
status.
Like, it was the status, and I never fucking made it. I tried out every year, and I never made it, and it like. And I never like talked about it, but it crushed me and it made me feel like shitty. Like I wasn't good enough for years, but probably really helped me.
It's awesome because it's real life. In real life, when you're 31, your mommy's not coming over and buying you a pony because you didn't make the cheerleading team. like I don't understand what people are stupid. Guys, we have an entire generation of mid-20s to early 30-year-olds whose parents are paying for their lives still.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's bad. It's bad because then those parents are in control. Then when the kids and parents are having discussions and the kid's 27 and they want to do something, the parent has the money hanging over it. Nobody says it in the argument, but everybody knows the score, which is if you don't listen to your mommy and daddy, they're going to pull the cash and then you can't have the BMW and the Equinox membership. It's all this bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all this bull fucking shit.